Come one, come all. Welcome to the Hogsty. After a bounce-back performance against the LA Rams, Washington stands to take on the league's fourth-ranked offense in the Oakland Raiders. The Redskins and the Raiders used to keep the same company in the doldrums of the NFL. Let's see how these two teams face off against each other on Sunday. It's the Hogsty. Don't go away.
By fans, for fans, the Hogsty. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
All righty, ladies and gentlemen. Hogsty fellas, are you guys ready for another jam-packed action episode of the Hogsty? Steve, how you doing?
I'm so excited. So excited. And the reason is that we get to see the Redskins break the Sunday night curse, the Sunday primetime curse.
Uh-oh. Hell yeah, man.
Because see, I'm trying to talk myself into positivity. You see, so I'm going to start the show off today with show positivity. The curse is not going to be applicable. And we'll see if I still feel that way when we do game predictions in about 45 minutes. Yeah, I may not.
Yeah. Can I talk you out of your positivity? That's the question.
It's not that tough.
No.
Jamal, you feeling as optimistic about this as Steve is?
No. But I'm not here to be a Debbie Downer, so let's go ahead and skip my intro. I'm doing all right today. We'll go ahead and go into Alex. Now, Alex, how you feeling tonight?
Well, I've had a long week. It's been a lot of, very early starts and very late finishes at the office, and then, top that off with the Jewish holidays. So, but my belly's full of brisket and chopped liver from last night, so let's do this thing.
All right. Well, where do you guys want to start? Because as I said in the intro here, we've got the league's fourth-ranked offense in Oakland. Might be a little skewed against their matchups, as our rankings might be a little bit skewed considering our matchups, but still, it is what it is.
I think we need to start with the Oakland offense because of the four units that are going to take the field, that is at least on paper, the most potent.
Yeah.
I do agree. And for those of you who've read the written preview that Sean and I wrote, we mentioned in here that you can't pay too much attention to the aggregated year stats yet because it's so early that it's not really completely statistically relevant yet. But nonetheless, Sean's point that he was trying to make earlier was that this offense, the Raiders, is the number one scoring offense in the league. They're number 4 in total yards, 4 in yards per game, second in yards per play, fifth in rushing yards. It goes on and on and on. The problem, of course, with that being is that they played the Titans and the Jets.
Right.
The Jets being a pathetic excuse for an NFL franchise, and the Titans being a young up-and-coming team. So it's not
Titans
exactly
are okay,
like they're
at least.
Yeah, they're not
trying to find that identity.
Right.
But it's not like the Raiders ran up the score on the Patriots and the Falcons.
No.
Right.
I'll give you a few more stats here before we move on. Derek Carr, who is Mr. Franchise quarterback, 75% completion rating this season, 0 interceptions,
good number.
5 touchdowns, 126.5 quarterback rating, which is third in the NFL. He has already run up 492 yards passing, which is middle of the pack, 30th, but his quarterback rating is through the roof.
Right. Well, and the reason he might not have an impressive yardage total is because they're running an offense where it's a lot of short, quick passes, and he just lets Crabtree and the other receivers just
Amari
get tons
Cooper.
of yak. That's kind of what it is. I don't think I was watching some of the replays of his first 2 games. I don't even think they bothered with a 5-step drop versus the Jets. I think it was all just 3-step hit, 3-step hit.
I think they are pretty hard hitting. To put also that in context, though, Carr is about to become, I can't remember if it's the 3rd or 4th player or something like that, but to rack up, 90 touchdowns in 50 games or something like that? I believe is what it was.
That's exactly right. It was 90 and 50. That's right.
So this is a guy who knows how to put up points. I agree that they are pretty quick hitting, and the Redskins offense has been like that in years past as well. But don't sell him short. This guy can definitely
not sell him short. But it explains why the yardage number looks lower than it should be.
True. He worries me, guys. 3 touchdowns last week. This is a we've talked about high scoring games before, but I think, and I know we had kind of a bounce back performance, but I think they're going to continue their offensive success, and it's going to be on us to keep up, because I just don't think we have an answer for Marshawn Lynch, Amari Cooper, Crabtree, and Carr. I think that's a tough foursome right there.
And don't forget that tight end of theirs. You know, he's.
Well, I like to dissuade everybody in the notion that Michael Crab. Well, I like to dissuade everybody that Crabtree is the guy to worry about in the receiving corps. It's really Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's his go-to guy. He's had more targets than Crabtree has. He's the first-round pick.
Right.
You know, he's the guy who runs a low 4.40. He's got a lot of talent, and he's actually Carr's favorite target. It's not Crabtree. Crabtree just happens to have caught more of the balls. They're both dangerous, so don't forget about Cooper is the guy I think to worry about more than Crabtree, in my opinion.
Well, Cooper is definitely the more explosive guy. He can definitely take a slant route 40. I don't know if he can house it, because he's got hoffed a couple times in years past, but he can definitely take a 5-yard quick slant, at least 40 yards. I give him that much. But he's an explosive guy. He's a playmaker at the receiver position. But the thing is that I wouldn't necessarily say that you can worry about Cooper more, but I'd say that Crabtree is definitely a threat because of the fact that they offset each other. Crabtree is the possession guy. He's like their Pierre Garçon. Like, he makes the tough catches for them. He's the guy who gets dirty, gets gritty. I think last week he had 3 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. So I mean, it's like he may not get most of the targets, but he makes his targets count. Like, the throws passed on, he makes those count.
Yeah, don't misunderstand me. I mean, I'm not trying to discount Crabtree, but I agree with what Jamal was saying in that Cooper is the guy who's the big time threat. Crabtree, possession guy. They're both. Carr's really good at spreading the ball around. These guys are all going to get their touches. Their tight end is going to get their touches. Marshawn Lynch is averaging 15 carries a game. He's at 30 attempts for the season. He's only averaging 4 yards an attempt, and this is against the Jets and the Titans. Okay. Yeah. And he sat out a football year. I mean, yes, they've running up a lot of rushing yards. But I'm not sure Lynch is the guy anymore.
I'd kill for 4 yards of carry, Steve.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that because we're averaging significantly more than 4 yards carry right now.
That's all skewed probably by that huge Thompson run and a couple flashy plays. You know, we're not actually a 4 yard a carry team.
I mean,
you asked, I delivered.
Gets flashy plays to bring up that average these days. That's how running games work.
Yeah,
I mean, true.
One thing I want to say about Lynch, though, just having rewatched those games this morning when you guys mentioned to me that we were recording tonight.
Alex thought he was off the hook for this week because of the Jewish holidays.
Because of the holiday, and then
lo and behold, we had to reschedule anyway, and Alex is back on the show.
So I crammed. I did what I used to do in college, and I crammed for the test. But when Lynch is doing his running, it's all in the later half of the games when they're just trying to run the clock down. So
that's a fair observation.
I'm not saying don't worry about him, but you don't have to worry about him until you're at that point where you're down by a touchdown in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I mean, Carr in the passing game scares me far more than Marshawn Lynch.
Right. He's a name, I think, more than anything at this point, in my opinion.
No, and he's good when you give him the ball, but it's a situational thing. And I think that's what you have to be very wary of with Oakland is they know how their team works for different situations. And they seem to be able to adjust their offense for that,
And I was going to say, to your point, Alex, my bad, Sean, but to your point, Alex, is basically like, it really makes the offense even more dangerous because, even if Marshawn doesn't get that amount of carries throughout the game, he gets the majority of his late. That offense line, like, they're the most complete offense and honestly well-rounded team that the Redskins will face this year.
Oh, yeah.
And with that offensive line being as efficient and as dominant as they are, it makes the task for the Redskins even tougher because they're going to have to defend against Marshawn in the second half, and he's a hell of a back, regardless of how old he is. He only missed a year.
Right.
He only missed a year. He's back. He has fresh legs. It's not like the legs withered away. He's still there, and that's a problem. Marshawn Lynch is definitely a problem. But if you get fresh legs in the second half, Marshawn Lynch with fresh legs, that's definitely a problem. So
who scares you more on this team, Derek Carr or Marshawn Lynch?
Derek Carr. I mean, he's the ultimate. He's a weapon.
Carr arguably could be a top 5 quarterback right now. I would.
Yeah.
Well, if you go by quarterback rating, he is literally
he's up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would put it so far, Steve, to say that I think this is going to come down to our front 7 guys really needing to keep consistent pressure. He's so elusive. So I think it's going to come down then. They need to keep pressure on him, maybe get him to push him out of the pocket, and then you've got the guys in the back have to play really tight and prevent something from developing downfield.
Forget the front 7. I think you don't want to overextend in terms of pass rush in this, too. I think you need to be ready to drop your linebackers into coverage often just to, keep those numbers working for you.
I'll point this out too. This is only 2 games, but what I noticed about the Raiders offense is they've scored more points in the fourth quarter than any other quarter by far this year. 14 points first quarter, 20 points in the second quarter, 10 in the third, 27 in the fourth quarter.
They close it out.
Yeah, they finished strong. They've closed it out. The Redskins,
not the same.
No, not the same. The Redskins are 3 points, 31 points, 3 points, and 7 points. So it's their big quarter. The Redskins this year has been the second quarter, whereas the Raiders have been A, much more consistent, and B, they've been closers in the fourth quarter, which is sort of contrary to what the Redskins have done for the most part over the past couple of years, shall we say?
You don't say, Steve.
You can say we did it last game by scoring a game-winning touchdown drive, but that's. One.
That's not common.
The exception that proves the rule.
Yeah.
What's funny? The second quarter last year was our strongest quarter too. It's like, regardless if we're winning or losing, but second quarter is always the most interesting quarter for us because that's when we're more alert. That's when that's when we wake up. Yeah. Regardless of what happens throughout the game, it's always been the second quarter is when we do the most damage, whether it's through the air or through the ground.
Honestly, it makes me wonder if Jay Gruden's getting out coached at halftime. Is the other thing. Why are they coming out flat in the third quarter?
That's just another one of those Jay Gruden questions we've asked for years.
I mean, it's a little tricky to say. Are they getting out coached, or was like in the last game, the second half is when we were losing guys left and right on offense. And
I'm not necessarily talking about just last week.
Into a wall for the entire third quarter.
I was just talking kind of generally.
Yeah.
Not really so much against the Rams. But let's get back to the Raiders here. I continue. This is going to be the Steve positive coming out here because, yes, the Raiders have looked great so far this year, but I just come back to the fact that they played the Titans and the Jets.
Sure.
I think what we're seeing is the best of the Raiders. I think they are due for a statistical fall. It may not be against us, but I don't think this is the best offense in the league. I don't think this is the most high-flying, biggest scoring offense in the league. Right now they are, but I think as the season goes on, they are going to regress a little bit back to the mean, which is for them sort of a top 10 kind of unit. So I don't think we're facing the best team we're going to face all year. I think there's some other teams that are maybe better.
No, I'm still more scared of Kansas City next week.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say Kansas City next week scares me more than the Raiders do. The Raiders, I think, is a game we can win. To me, I think the best defense against an offense like Carr's where, like you said, short strike, but dangerous downfield guy. They've got the possession guy. Keep him off the field.
Yeah.
Keep him off the field.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, they've got a tremendously high third down conversion rate, 54%. They are over 31 minutes time of possession. They march down the field. So the best defense to a team like this is to keep the ball yourself. Long drives.
I think that's part of it. But if we're talking about like actual things I think the defense needs to do, I think Sean mentioned this briefly. You have to disrupt the receivers' routes pretty often, I think, against the Raiders. I mean, you have to jam them. You have to be pushing guys to the ground if you can, doing everything you can to keep guys like Crabtree from getting to that spot where they think they'll have him in 5 steps or 3 steps or whatever it is. Because when you watch Carr play, it's very much a timing thing. He's not looking to see who the open guy is. He's looking to see, did this guy get to the spot yet? A lot of times, so I'm wondering if, the key really is Breland and Norman getting up in guys' faces and sticking as tight to their receivers as possible.
I mean, and like you said, consistent pressure on the quarterback. And these guys have only given up 2 sacks on the season. Which is tied for tops in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bring Swearinger up. Don't necessarily send him on the blitz a lot. Bring him up to the box and let him kind of prowl around.
Okay.
I think another thing is, you said they only given up 2 sacks, and that's definitely in the front seven is definitely going to be a big question mark heading into this game. Not in terms of can they get it done, but more so this is one of their biggest tests of obviously it's only 3 games into the season, but it's the biggest test of the season so far. Simply because of the fact that you played the Eagles, who has a decent offensive line. You were able to generate pressure on Carson Wentz all day. You weren't able to tackle him. You're dealing with another guy in Derek Carr who's similar to Carson Wentz in terms of pocket awareness. You're going to have to deal with him, and you're dealing with a better offensive line with him. You also are dealing with a team who hasn't turned the ball over at all this season.
Right.
So it's like it's definitely a test for this defense to force extra turnovers. Extra possessions for our offense, and then something that has to get done against the Raiders. It's something that has to get done, not getting almost close. Like in order for them to win, they have to get extra. They have to get extra.
Right, and the Raiders have generated a number of turnovers conversely. Including
they
one
got 2.
special teams, I think, and
2 last year against the Jets. I said last year, last week against the Jets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Raiders are +2 in turnovers. So far this year, they have lost none in game 2.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to point out offensive.
More than that somehow.
No, I just like to point out, offensive line wise, I think Donald Penn might be the best left tackle that they've faced so far this year. They just re-signed him. He's an athletic guy for being so big, and they just re-signed him to a contract extension a few days ago. So I think he is a big test for, I would assume, Preston Smith, primarily, and Junior Gillette. Here's a quick, interesting stat for you guys. I didn't realize this. The Redskins actually have the second longest active streak of consecutive games with a sack. They have had at least 1 sack in 26 games in a row. Only the Bengals are more than that, 31 sacks.
I'm shocked by that since our defenses have been awful the last few years. That
they've managed 1 sack in 26 straight games.
So most of that's Ryan Kerrigan, right? We can just say that's mostly Kerrigan.
Yeah,
who else is it going to be? There's a couple guys, but probably carrying the lion's share of that.
The Redskins have always gotten a lot of sacks. Where the defensive line has failed is they've just let people run all up, down, through, over.
Right.
Past, everything.
Yeah. Well, I think up until recently, it's always felt like the entire goal of their 3-4 was just, hey, get a sack. I don't care about the line. I don't care about the secondary. Just get sacks.
Yeah, well, I think we can all agree that if we can get that, our job will be easier. Speaking of sacks, do we want to switch on over to the other side of the ball and talk about Khalil Mack? Some of these guys?
Do we have to?
We do, Steve. We have to. Fortunately, this is our duty.
I want to hear Jamal's take on Khalil Mack first, because I somehow have a feeling you have a better take on him than I do.
Well, he's definitely either 1 or 2 in terms of, the best pass rushers in the league. Is either him or the other guy in his division, and Von Miller. You can decide which one you want to go with. It may come down to preference. I think
he's got the most sacks since 2015. I think
he had 26 sacks in 2015 and 16 combined, and 4 so far already this year.
So 30 sacks in less than 3 years already.
Yes.
So
pretty good.
Yeah, it is. And see, Khalil Mack is a guy who I personally, and the good thing about Khalil Mack is that with this offense, with this defense is what I should say. He really is the only pass rusher for the Raiders, really.
Right.
Bruce Irvin is a solid, pass rusher, but he's not as consistent as Khalil Mack is, and he's also not that great in the run game.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to Khalil Mack, he can do it all on his side, but at the same time, he's manageable. Again, he creates a lot of pressure, but you can control that. If you want to double team him, you can. More than likely, you will have to. You'll probably start out the game with Morgan Moses. Him and Morgan Moses 1-on-1. I doubt he goes over the Trent Williams side, so it'll probably be
not.
Morgan Moses.
I mean, why would they?
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. But so he'll probably start out 1-on-1 with Morgan Moses. If Morgan needs some help, then hey, you bring in Jordan Reed to chip him before he goes out on the route, or you get the running back out there to chip him, or maybe stay in pass protection.
Maybe Vernon Davis goes on that side more, because I'd rather have him helping block than Jordan Reed, frankly.
Yeah, but then you'd have to take. It just depends on the formation, because then you may have to take Reed out the game. Like if you want to go in a 3.
If Reed even plays, I misspoke, by the way. I was looking at the wrong row. He has 1 sack this year. The 4 sacks was his rookie year. So I just want to clarify that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
My point is, Mack is an elite player. There's no doubt about it. He can beat you. He can beat you with speed. He can beat you with power. He can. He has a combination in his tool set, everything. So he's an elite player, but he's manageable, especially because he's the only pass rusher for the Raiders, only consistent one.
He's kind of like the 3-4 linebacker we've always wanted, and that we've always we could always need on this team, but never seem to get.
Right. Right. When it comes to the rest of the defense, though, I don't get as scared about Oakland's defense as their offense.
No,
I don't know about
they are
you guys.
susceptible.
No.
Mack's an elite talent, but I look at that secondary, I'm like, meh. They're good. No one scares me. I look at most of the linebackers. They're good. They'll obviously make stops, and they have someone like Mack there in front of them to help kind of bust up every play to begin with. That helps. But
yeah,
I think they're starting left corner, right? Can everybody name him? Say it all together.
Is it
David
Amerson?
Sure is.
He's got to be, 35 now? He's up there.
David Amerson? He's not 35.
No.
He was drafted in 2014.
No, 28.
Yeah, he's not even 30, man.
Oh, wow.
Look, here's the thing to me about the Raiders. If you look at their numbers so far this year, 11th in points, 18 in yards, 20th in yards per play, 19th in rushing yards, 5th yards. And that's playing, the Titans have a very, in my opinion, a high-quality running back and a good quarterback. They're still learning and growing, but the Jets are horrible in every way, terrible.
The Jets are a literal joke in terms of their offense.
They are. They're the JV team playing the varsity,
right.
And yet they had at least some success against this defense. I think this is a team that the Redskins can run the ball against, and I think a guy like David Anderson has improved tremendously since he was with the Redskins. But if we get our receivers that kind of get it together this week, Kirk Cousins has a good game, which he historically does. You get through the first couple of games, he starts to improve. I think this is a game where we can. Despite the big bad Raiders, this is a game where we can move the ball and score on.
I would completely agree. I think if they're susceptible, it's obviously defensively. Tennessee, like you said, they allowed 5 of their first 6 third downs to be converted. The Raiders allowed Tennessee's first downs to be converted a lot in the first half. It was a little bit better in the second. With the Jets, honestly, I feel like their problem there was a lot of penalties. They had a absurd amount of personal foul penalties in that game. It's kind of an undisciplined unit. And I think it was 9 penalties for over 100 yards or something like that.
Yeah. They've had 14 on the season already.
Yeah, they're a very penalized team. So I think they're sloppy, and we can take advantage of that. You can't always necessarily bait a guy into committing a penalty, but those, they might let us hang around and gift us some yards too. And then again, they're giving up 4 yards a carry. So yeah, running, let them make mistakes. Hit them hard, especially at the beginning of the game when they've come out slow. Hit them hard before they can get their bearings.
One minor thing I'll say about running the ball, though, is don't just look at those raw numbers, because you got to take into account that both quarterbacks ran for something like 30 or 40 yards in each game, scrambling.
Well, I told you guys up front that. Like that. I told you guys up front that looking at aggravated stats coming into week 3 is not wholly accurate. It's a snapshot but it's not. It doesn't really reflect what these teams are going to be on the season.
Sure.
Nonetheless,
Yeah,
that's why I brought
basically
up
in
the
a running game, we've had one awful game and and last
Right.
week was one of the most successful, maybe the most successful running game of the Jay Gruden era.
Right.
So we are somewhere between
I would
awful and
say
great.
the Jets, I can't tell you the name of their running backs, and their running backs alone had 95 yards. So,
Right.
even though I would say
Man,
be
full
cautious
fake.
about over relying on the run in this, like you can definitely do something.
You gotta use it. Yeah, you can't slump back into Jay's default, which is 8 times a game or something.
Right.
I would like to see Pryor get going. Is anybody else still waiting for that major breakout
I've given
play?
up on 'em.
Oh,
Listen, you guys are crazy, okay? I looked up today in preparation for this. I tweeted this out too. Pierre Garçon, this year 15 targets, 9 catches, 107 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Terrell Pryor, 15 targets, 8 catches, 97 yards. Pryor has 12.1 yards per reception. Garçon was at 11.9. Pierre Garçon and
Sure.
Terrell Pryor have had the almost exact same production on the season. Yes, Pryor has visibly dropped some balls that he needed to catch, 2 of them and the one on the penalty. But the fact of the matter is he hasn't been terrible. He's producing at essentially the same rate as Pierre Garçon.
well, no one said he was terrible. Just
A
saying,
lot
I'm
of
waiting
people
for
have
that-
said he's
Yeah,
terrible.
a lot
A
of
whole
people
lot
have
of
said
people.
he's
You
terrible.
didn't
Oh,
say that, Sean.
I'm
People are
not
ready
saying
to
those people
crucify
are
the guy. Yeah.
those people are jerks, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying I would love to see that breakout play, that sports center play, where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, the Redskins, they made a good decision." That's what I'm waiting for. Haven't
Golf
quite
clap.
seen it yet. The other thing is we didn't exactly draft him to, I think, be the exact production of Pierre Garçon. I think Pierre Garçon kind of always overplayed our expectations of him, or at least he always did to me. I was really had high hopes for Pryor. I know it's early in his tenure here, but it would be nice. It would be nice.
Well,
I hate to see Crowder, streaking downfield down the sideline or something when it could be Pryor.
well,
It's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
He'll get his groove. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time with a whole bunch of this passing game in general. So I'm not really.
And people forget that. Pryor's in year 2 of being a wide receiver in his life.
right.
It is not. It sounds
Nobody forgets
easy.
that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. People have given up on him, and you guys have to remember out there that he has all the tools. He's got the work ethic, but he literally is learning how to be a receiver. He has much less experience than even these rookie receivers. Doxson has a lot more experience as a
Right,
receiver than Pryor does.
And what what I'm kind of realizing from what we've seen of him, I think you need to be more realistic about what routes you're using Pryor on for production purposes right now. And what I mean is, we take for granted a wide receiver running a slant route, making a big leaping catch to get the ball in stride. And that's, for somebody who's not been a wide receiver that long, that might be a bit much for him. His best catches have been those simple, go 10 yards, turn to face the quarterback and catch the ball. It's the very simple. It's not streaking down the field making adjustments.
Little vanilla.
And maybe you have to do more of that with him until he gets comfortable, just so that because you have to at least make him a threat. If he catches 2 balls again, teams are going to put a third corner on him and not even care at that point. So you have to maintain some kind of threat with him. Personally, I want to see Doxson get on the field more. That's where I'm at right now.
He got on the
I'm
field
with
enough.
you.
What you really want is more targets.
Well, yeah.
Because last week, Doxson got 29 plays, Grant got 30. They split time, basically.
Right, and
Doxson didn't get any target.
Yeah.
He didn't get any targets. That's what you really want is targets, not necessarily plays.
Fair enough. Yeah, targets is what I really mean when I say on the field.
Yards. That's what I want. I want that yards and that sweet pointage. That's all I want.
Jamal, are we crazy? But am I wrong about Pryor or what? What do you think? You didn't speak up.
Well, I don't think you're wrong. When it comes to Pryor, I think we're in the same mindset. But in terms of the things that bothers me as with Pryor is that and like I played receiver, for a while. Obviously not at a high level, but the basic thing with a receiver is you need to know how to catch. Like that's just plain and simple. You're still taught how to properly catch a football. Like when it's coming towards you at a certain, like just traditionally how to catch the football, and you're making a diamond with both your hands. And these are things and once you practice that method over and over and over and over again, you get it in your head. You install it when you see different angles of how the football is thrown. Then you adjust your hands. I mean, it's and at the same time, it just becomes easier. Like if you have soft hands and you have strong hands at the same time, that makes sense. Like you're not gonna drop a ball. You're also not gonna let a defender rip the ball out of your hands. And that's the only thing that really bothers me with Pryor. Like the route running and the depth concepts and your splits and learning when to break on a route, things like that. That's teachable. That's always coachable. Because that's just something that's always going to be taught. But when it comes to your hands, that's just something either you have it or you don't. I don't think you get softer hands. You don't get softer hands as you get older and get more experience. So that's the thing with Pryor with me. But in terms, I do want to say one more thing, and I'll make it quick. But the thing with Alex, I was going to say is that I wouldn't limit him to just stop hitches and curls. Because the only way to get better, again, as a young receiver, you have to get him out there. You have to make him run those routes, get it on film, tell him what to do, tell him what to correct. Still have to run it because if he's a deep threat, you got to get him down the field, stretch him out, make the quarterback throw him.
I don't think he is an instinctive deep threat, though. I really think he is more of a. I hate to use the term possession receiver because I don't think it's quite that, but I don't see his. Like we've seen him on these deep balls, he doesn't have any of the instincts for it. And
a lot of people feel the same way about Garcon, though.
More than that,
they still throw it. They still send him deep.
I mean, I get your point, Alex, and I think it's accurate to say at least he dropped the one ball in the end zone that was a deep ball. That he had to kind of adjust to. He dropped the one against the Rams that was a slant. Coming out ahead of him. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Whereas maybe for him, ball coming at him on a hitch or on, like a square in, something like that. I mean, I get it, but Jamal is right. This guy is 6'5".
Those, but I'm saying you have to.
No, I think you're underestimating his inexperience. He's got all the physical tools to be a downfield threat. He's unbelievably fast. He's huge. He's got a really big catch radius. He can do it, but I just think it's not easy to run those patterns effectively. And I think I think we need to stick with it and have him learn a little bit. I think he needs to learn a little bit.
Especially if he wants to be paid wide receiver one money.
Well,
he has to know. He has to get better.
No,
I'd like to talk about
doing wide receiver 2 type numbers.
I'd like to talk about Kirk Cousins here for a minute.
Sure.
Well,
that's what I don't want to do.
He's had 2 bad games, I know, but I'd just like to bring up some more numbers because I actually did some digging. For those of you who don't know, we get a big package of data and information from the Redskins pregame, and it's typically really, really, really big, and it's quite frankly far more than we can digest for just this little 1-hour show. But I did dig through a little bit, and this week they published a bunch of Kirk Cousins stats. This guy is marched up the leaderboard, the Redskins career leaderboard. Once you get past the big 3 of Sonny, Sammy, Sonny, and Joe, you're really talking about Mark Rippon and Kirk Cousins and everybody else. This guy in only 5 years, going into his 6 years, he's 5th in passing yards. He's 5th in completions. He's 6th in touchdowns. He's got the 3rd all-time highest completion percentage in NFL history for a minimum of 1,500 attempts. I mean, yes, he has problems. Yes, he's not come through under pressure. But the guy has made tremendous strides since we first saw him in 2012 and 2013 when he looked just atrocious. I think he's in a rut right now. If you go back to last season, he's actually only had 4 touchdown passes in 5 games, which is the worst he's had since his rookie year. He's in a rut, but he's going to break out of it. I think just statistically, if you look what he does in these games, He started slow. Every year he's been a starter. He's been the man, but he always breaks out of it. And so
you can't do that in the NFL, though, Steve. Starting slow in the season is just you can't do
I don't.
it. No
I'm
other
just
good
telling
team.
you what. I'm not telling you. I'm telling you what is, not
No,
what
I
he
get
has
that.
to be.
I understand.
So I think
understand.
it's going to get better with this guy because he's put up too many numbers and he's been too good to sort of continue down the road he's been in these past two
Right.
games. So whether it's the Raiders or whether it's another game, at some point Kirk Cousins is going to look like good Kirk, not bad Kirk. I can guarantee. I would bet my house on it.
I think,
But you know bad Kirk will return. Every
Yeah.
time you see good Kirk, you kind of know bad's coming back.
Well,
He's the other side of that coin.
he has this 4 to 6 game window every year where he goes God mode and throws for 400 yards every game. And
Right.
it's just a question of when is that going to start, which, week 3 might be a little early. I always feel like it starts more like week 5 for him, but, who knows. But, yeah, he'll have that run. We all know that run's coming at some point for him. And then he'll settle back down, and he'll go back down to being more of like a 300-yard-a-game guy. And,
Finish the season with a back-breaking interception.
Here's
Right.
Here's another along these lines. What we're talking about here. Here's another Kirk Cousins stat, also courtesy of the Redskins pregame information. On his career in games 1 through 8, quarterback rating at 87.6 average. Games 9 through 16, 112.8.
So
I mean,
it comes
for
in the
some
back
reason,
There you go.
yeah. And if you look at sort of game by game, that's what happens. It's like a freight train rolling downhill. He gets better and better and better. So at some point, the nonsense we've seen from him, he's looked bad. I think his offensive line has scared him because the offensive line hasn't looked all that great. He's not used to these receivers.
Yeah, you can tell.
You can tell, and I think, and I think he's just kind of not there yet. But it's gonna come. I promise you guys, it's gonna come.
I know it's going to come too. I just, at this point, I don't know how many quarterbacks in the NFL really get years and years and years of up and down performances before people pull the plug. I know it happens. You can call it a couple examples,
Eli Manning's
but
made a whole career doing it.
Jay Cutler,
Joe
there's plenty of
Flacco.
guys.
Well, the difference between those two guys is Joe Flacco and Eli Manning have 3 Super Bowl rings between them.
Yeah,
That's
there's
the difference.
a slight difference.
Which they luckily got by having great defenses and running games all around them their years that they got them.
Well, no, you don't.
And they play well
Eli
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I
Don't
think
sell
we're also
Eli
forgetting.
short. I mean,
I think-
Eli's had MVP caliber years. He's had a bunch of down years too, but he's had years where he looks like the MVP of the league.
Sure.
Yeah. But the years they won the Super Bowl, great defenses.
They squeezed into those Super Bowl years like 9 and 7 though,
Pass
both
rushers.
times.
What's that, Jamal?
Yeah. No, I was saying great pass rushes. I give him that.
Yeah.
And apparently,
I don't
the
know. He
Giants
doesn't
proved
impress.
that you don't need more than 3 fingers to pass rush.
Oh.
That was dirty. That was dirty, dude. No, just kidding.
Anyway.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what exactly to expect. What are we going to see? Good Kirk or bad Kirk? I don't know, and that's kind of the problem as far as I'm concerned.
Did his wife
Game
have the kid yet? Because she was supposed to have her kid.
Supposed to be on a Monday.
Oh, is
So I'm like, it's a weekday. It's not going to be on a Sunday.
I think she's past her due date. I have not seen anything in the media suggesting that she's had the baby yet, but it seems like it's ought to be any day now from what the reports were.
I part of me wonders if his first kid that mentally is in the back of his head the whole time, but
Maybe he knows he's going to have to stop partying and stop hanging out in clubs and drinking too much and
no
everything
more
that he's been
going
doing.
to Shake Shack all the time at like midnight.
Let's do injuries real fast. Unless
we should wrap
Jamal,
up
do you have
so
anything
you
else to
get-
say about Kirk Cousins? Because I don't know, I didn't hear if you had contributed yet on that.
No, I don't have much to say. But I mean, it is important. Did we even? I mean, it's in general sense, it's important for him in the offense to not turn the ball over, because last week they were very sloppy, including him, in terms of like he was mishandling pitches, simple pitches to the running back. So it's very important to emphasize ball control and make sure that they execute way better than they did last week.
Yeah, let's do injuries real. You want to do injuries real fast?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Let's do it real fast and let's do predictions and wrap this thing up.
Okay. All right. Redskins injuries. Jordan Reed's the big one. He didn't practice Wednesday. He did practice in a limited sense Thursday. So he's ribs and sternum. Other guys of concern, Mason Foster in his shoulder. He's been limited all week. Rob Kelly's been limited. He does not have a broken rib. He's got bruised ribs. Yeah. Morgan Moses has the ankle and the shoulder. Josh Norman has the shoulder. Those guys have all been limited. And a bunch of other guys are on the list, but with minor problems. Doxson's on there, but he's practiced. Spencer Long has practiced all week. Chris Thompson's practiced all week. The one I would point out with the Raiders is Amari Cooper. He's been limited with a knee problem.
Awesome.
So depending on how you feel, let's hope he remains limited because it would help us.
I mean, never root for injuries unless it's the Cowboys, but
I'm not rooting for it,
healthy,
but if
Amari. Sit and get healthy for the rest of the season.
I mean, if Amari's limited, that's good for us.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's not too bad. I mean, it felt like it was going to be a even bigger list towards the end of that game last week. So
it sounded like
it was
kind of like a normal
game. Hurt.
Yeah,
it was about like a body bag game again, is what it seemed like it was turning into.
Yeah, maybe playing 3 football games in 1 week on one field is not a good idea.
Nonsense.
In the oldest stadium in the league, on top, other than the Lambeau Field too.
I mean, I love LA Coliseum. It's a great historic stadium, but
Well, it's like the I don't know how they did it, because the USC Texas game was the night before, and it went till like 11 p.m. Or 10 p.m. rather Pacific time, and then they had a football game, an NFL game. I don't know how the grounds crew did it. Maybe they didn't do it very well.
Think they did.
All right, well, let's venture some predictions about this thing. You guys feeling confident? You want to put your predictions officially out there in the ether?
Sure.
Predictions sure to go wrong.
Well, I will go ahead and go first since I brought this upon us. I am guessing it's going to be a close game. I think Oakland ultimately takes this, and I'm not trying to sell the Redskins short because I am totally emboldened by last week, but I think the Raiders outpace us a little bit on offense, take this one 28-24. Oakland.
Okay. Who wants to volunteer to be next?
Well,
I'll go.
Okay, you go, Jamal.
Okay, yeah, I was about to say 'cause I don't want to ruin things for Steve. So I think I got the Redskins losing this one. I would say if I had to give a score, it's actually around the same range as Sean, maybe 27-20, 24-17, something like that. I don't trust the Redskins defense just yet to make the big stops against an offense like this. So that's where I'm at with it.
Beautiful.
Alex.
All right. I think it's going to be close too. I'm with you guys on that. I'm also going to be in the Redskins lose column. I'm going to say Redskins lose by a field goal, something like 24-21.
Well, guess what, people? See,
you got to predict the win.
I'm very excited because I have maintained my positivity throughout this show. I was afraid it was going to disappear. Sweet. And the reason I have maintained my positivity is I am more convinced that Kirk Cousins is going to wake up and show us good Kirk. Because we haven't seen it in the first 2 games. He's not going to let me down. I'm convinced of this. And if we get good Kirk, we have a pretty decent chance. And the reason is also, the Raiders are traveling 5 hours east, which is a really tough thing to do. It's cross-country flight. It's in D.C., so they have that disadvantage. So I actually think the Redskins are going to wake up and sort of look more like the 2016 Redskins, not quite at that level. So I'm going to say it's going to go the other way from you guys. I'm going to say it's going to be along the lines of 28-24 Redskins.
Oh, you're picking the same score, just the other way.
Okay, I don't. If it was 2016 Redskins, I'd say maybe we'd run up over 30, but not this year, not yet.
No, we don't have that second gear yet.
I mean, the good thing is if Steve is right, we know what to name the show. So,
what? Steve is right.
Yeah,
Steve is always right.
we can't do that every week. We have to have some variation.
When you're Dolo, you get to choose. You have the right.
Yeah.
All right, well, we all predicted different things, at least a win and a loss from at least one person each on the Hogs Die, so someone's going to be right. We will see who it is when we come back for you guys after this game on Sunday. Take care until then.